All right, so today I want to spend time in this video just giving you a bunch of advice I have as far as landing a career in cloud in the current market. This is actually going to be a longer version of a pretty short blog post that I wrote almost 2 years ago. And I think that the advice in that blog post is still very relevant today. And you can go check that out if you'd rather go read that instead of watching this video. I'm going to try to shape what I said in that blog post into more actionable steps in this video. So with all that being said, hi, I'm GPS. I do cloud things at Microsoft. Here on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, drop a comment, show me some love, and welcome to a new video. All right, so some prereqs, I would say, is one, you got to accept that this stuff is going to be hard. I feel bad that in the last 2-3 years, social media in the cloud computing space has exploded with content that was all around the same messaging of all you need is 30 days plus this certification to land a role, or you can get a job with doing the bare minimum. Like, look at my job, I do nothing. That, like, there's been so much of that type of content in this space for the last couple of years. And in my opinion, from my own lived experience, when I got into specifically cloud, so like 2016, 17, 18, those years, there was none of that. So I had the benefit of, like, yeah, it was harder to find resources. There were fewer resources, but I didn't have all this external advice and opinions, none of that. It was me just figuring stuff out. And I know that it's pretty easy to get sucked into that type of stuff now. But I say all this to just let you all know that it's hard. Yes, you can land jobs in 30 days, but that's like a rare exception. So come into this knowing it's going to be difficult, okay? That shouldn't scare you. Usually things that are difficult are rewarding and good for you, usually. But if you are trying to come into this thinking that it's going to be easy or it's an easy job to get, that's not the move for you, all right? Cool. So for those who are starting out in like a position similar to the position that I was in when I started help desk, really, I was just single, no kids, no debt. The world was my oyster type thing. In a way where that I could just take risks and make decisions that would only really impact my life. And if that was a situation I were to be in now, I would still do the exact same thing, which would be to start in a support role. Help desk, help analyst, tech support, Best Buy help desk, Apple Store help desk, anything like that. Anything that gives you experience into a ticketing system, documentation, people skills, and troubleshooting. If you can find an entry-level tech job that gives you those four, those are the foundation for any technical role that you're going to find out there, to be honest. So if you can get that exposure in your first role, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. I know that for other people, I think the majority of people would find them who follow my channel, according to the analytics that I have, could find themselves in that type of like area of their life, which is awesome. Go ahead and take the risks. If you end up doing a job for a year or two, you're still so early in your career, you're still so young. Take the risks, embrace that. There are only a few limited amount of years in your life where you can just be carefree. That shouldn't be time just for you to be carefree with like your social life, your romantic life, financial. It should be for your career as well, because that opens up the opportunity for you to really explore what you want to do. So embrace that risk. For other people who maybe you want to switch careers, you already have a monetary expectation, you have a family to support, wherever it is that you find yourselves, You are going to have to embrace what you, in any skill set that you have, to take what I call like a stepping stone or an exposure role into cloud. So if you have a sales background, something like a solution architect, which is very sales based type role, might work for you. If you have a teaching background, maybe being like a training architect or going to these places like Pluralsight, A Cloud Guru, things like that. They pay very well. I used to work at one of them. They pay very well. You can embrace your teaching and then learn more about the technical aspect, things like that. In my last video, I talked a little bit about new data center opportunities that could be potentially opening up. So if you have something like an HVAC background, maybe look into that kind of stuff, right? So your goal is to embrace whatever your background is and then find a middle ground and find something that will get you exposure into cloud, and then fully pivot if you want to into like a full cloud engineer role, software dev, whatever it is that you want. And you may just find that that exposure role gives you everything that you want and you don't want to jump around and you can grow in that role. That's awesome. Totally. Solution architects can make a lot of money. I know a lot of them that make a lot of money. I have heard some wild numbers because there's a lot of money to be made in cloud, right? Especially when it's like commission based. So yeah, that, so I think I covered like first steps for both sides there. After that, for the people who are moving into your support role, I want you to move into it very intentionally. I want you to know that, okay, I've got this job. I don't want to spend more than a year or 2 years tops. Do not spend more than 2 years. I think a year and a half is probably a sweet spot. But go into it knowing that this is not going to be my career forever. And that way, you know that your time there is limited. I mean, in reality, your time in the world is limited, but that's a whole different type of discussion. But know that you have, expiration date in this role. So embrace that and be like, I'm going to suck everything out of this role that I can. Okay? So you go into it, you do your absolute best, you learn as much as you can, you develop your people skills, you talk to everyone, you network with everyone, and you never really know who can teach you something. So that's kind of like a mentality that you want you to have as well. But really, really, really develop those 4 skills: documentation, troubleshooting, people skills, and a ticketing system. Get as many examples of leveraging those things as you can, because those examples and stories we're going to need when you're going to go and interview, all right? As soon as you get that support role, or maybe even before, I need you to have a certification in mind that you want to take. I recommend it to be like an associate level cloud certification. So an AWS, a GCP, an Azure, think like 104, 204, I don't know the equivalents in the other clouds, but have one of those in mind. And once you're pretty comfortable in your help desk role, I would say, because a lot of times you start a new gig and you need like, I don't know, a solid 3 months to kind of upskill and feel like you can perform at your best. And sometimes when you're doing that, a lot of your free time is going to be consumed with that kind of stuff too. It's all exciting. It's new. It's like that honeymoon phase too. So don't miss out on that. Don't be like, day one, I got the job, I also need to be studying for what's next for my next gig. That's a good mentality to have, but I don't want you kind of always focusing on the next thing and then you miss out on your current thing, right? So once you're in a position where you're like, okay, I got the hang of this help desk, this support stuff, I'm looking for a little bit more of a challenge. If you can't find that at your current gig, completely fine. I would 100% ask like your manager of like, can I shadow someone else? Can I maybe spend an hour just with another team? Those opportunities, you'd be surprised how many times people are like, yeah, of course, as long as you get your work done. But if not, kind of try to find opportunities that will give you exposure to what you want to do next, or maybe just exposure to a bunch of things, because you might not even have an idea of what you want to do next. Okay. So then you select the certification, right? Like I mentioned, 1 associate level. And then I want you to work on that pretty much every day. Take your time to really dive deep into the content, deep into developing the skills that you need. My first certification was the AWS Certified Developer one. And that took me 6 months to study for. I spent every day, I was pretty much antisocial. I was like, I had a good routine. I would wake up, hit the gym, go to work. At lunchtime, I would study, and I would come home and I would study. And I just did that for 6 months, almost every single day. And I learned everything very, very well, in and out. And I've like developed deep knowledge that to this day has helped me really. But I find that that pattern isn't very popular anymore. I find that people really just want to, pass a certification through memorization so they can post it on LinkedIn and then on to the next and the next and the next. I want you, people who watch this channel, to embrace and to prefer depth, right? Instead of just these 13, 14 certifications. Because I promise you, as great as that is for engagement, you get very little out of it. It's like fake food, right? You want like a nutritious meal. Also, I want you to take this time to really develop a great habit of studying, right? So play around with different sort of schedules that work for you. I used to really like doing an hour in the morning. So it would either be like while I was having breakfast, or we would wake up earlier, or it would be my lunchtime, and then an hour after in the evening. And I would split like doing kind of like intensive technical studying. So like hands-on in the morning, and then making notes or writing whatever it is that I learned about later in the evening. And I would just do that every single day. For me, I found out very early that text-based material works best for me. And that is something that you will have to figure out what works best for you. So take the time to, figure out how you learn best, and then play around and see what routines work best. And then it's not like day one, you sit down to study and everything's going to be perfect. There's a lot of figuring out things, and embrace that. Again, give yourself this, the year and a half that you're going to be in your support role to like really develop all these other habits that are going to make you successful throughout your entire career. I think I now have a very successful career. I make more money than I have ever thought I could possibly do. I live where I've always wanted to live. Like I can travel whenever I want. Like I just overall have an amazing and successful career in my eyes. And a lot of the habits that have helped me obtain that were things that I started early on. I didn't skip through anything. I just embraced the fact that like I need to learn how to study. I need to learn how to learn. I need to build my foundational skills. I need to build my people skills. So I did that early on, right? So anyway, you're going to be at the help desk gig for, let's say, a year and a half or so. And I think in this time, you want to aim to get 2 certifications and build to 2 projects, right? So your first certification is that associate level, whichever cloud you want. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm going to tell you do Azure. Plus, we've been pretty popular as of lately. But, whatever cloud you want to do is fine. And you want to build a project that showcases the skills of that certification. A popular one is the Cloud Resume Challenge. I think you could also probably just go to ChatGPT and paste in the outline of the certification. Like if you go to the official study guide, you just copy that, paste it into ChatGPT and be like, hey, I need to build a hands-on project that showcases all the skills I would have by passing the certification. And it can give you a bunch of ideas. That's pretty fun too. I would give that a try if you wanted to. Maybe you can build a couple of like smaller sized projects based on like each section of the certification. There's a bunch of things that you can honestly do. On Learn to Cloud, on learntocloud.guide, which is an open source guide to the fundamentals of cloud engineering that I wrote from firsthand experience, I have capstones for every phase. You can do those as well. I see people doing them on LinkedIn all the time. I just saw one yesterday, and they spoke to how challenging it was, but how rewarding it felt once they figured it out, and how like they actually felt like they got hands-on. You can do those as well. But yeah, your goal is to get 1 certification and 1 project that implements that certification. And then another certification I would recommend to be sort of like a complementary to that. So maybe it's like a networking cert, it's a Linux cert, it's a security cert. And this is also an opportunity for you to kind of venture out and see what would interest you in terms of a niche. Because cloud is so big, right? Cloud security, cloud networking, cloud admin, cloud development, so many things that you can do. So with that complementary cert, I want you to kind of start looking into things that you would be interested in niching into. So I personally think I would probably do Linux, something Linux focused. And then I would either build another project that implements the knowledge from that certification, or I would go back to my first cert, the project that I built for my first cert, and then improve that with the knowledge that I gained from the second cert, right? I'm not trying to, I guess what I'm trying to recommend is cohesion, that you move in a way that makes sense for where you're trying to get to. And instead of it just being like, oh, this random cert and this random cert and this random cert, and this random cert. Earlier in my career, I have it in my journals. Someday I'll show it to you all. I was spending 1 week web dev, 1 week DevOps, 1 week iOS development, and kind of all over the place. And it wasn't until I sat down and said, I'm going to spend as much time as I can to learn this certification, this cloud technology, that things really, really solidified for me. And I'm trying to give that advice to you now. It's like, pick it. And even if you end up picking like an associate level, let's say like a Linux cert, there's still so much there. So don't feel like you're going to miss out. You can always later on learn other things. But for now, I think the move is to just kind of niche in a little bit in those types of areas, right? So, giving yourself a year and a half to accomplish all of this is very doable. Additionally, you're building your study habits, you're understanding how you learn. I would also take the opportunity here to develop a habit for reading, to learn a little bit about personal finance and how you can be smarter with your money, and maybe build, just like routines in your life that work for you, things like that, right? So after this year and a half, in my opinion, you have experience, right? You have 2 certs, 2 projects. You've built those people skills, and you are going to be ready to go and start applying and looking for other jobs, right? Now, there are a couple of things in terms of looking for a job. The biggest thing that I see people get hung up on is that you're all focused on making sure that job has cloud in the name. And this is a big mistake. First of all, the people who create job listings don't always know how to properly name the role. Like you could have a cloud engineer title, but your description matches, I don't know, a software engineer or something like that. And generally in the tech space, a software engineer at company A could look so different from a software engineer at company B. Depends on the scale, like the size of the company, who's writing the descriptions, all this kind of stuff, right? So don't pay too much attention to the role title. Obviously, it needs to vaguely resemble something that you want to do, but dive into those descriptions, right? When I was going from help desk to then sysadmin, I did not care whatsoever about the title. But at the very end of this one job listing, at the bottom, it said, currently migrating Azure. If you're interested in cloud, there's plenty of opportunity there. Had I been like, oh no, I'm not open to any sysadmin or any type of those types of roles, I would have missed out on the role that gave me hands-on exposure to all things cloud engineering. That's a big thing, right? So be open to different types of roles. Again, if you have the mentality of like, this is a stepping stone, I'm just going to spend another year and a half. And if I don't like it, I can make a move after that. If I do like it, then awesome. It's not going to be your career forever. It's not going to be your life forever. And more importantly, every role is an opportunity for you to learn and to embrace new things. So welcome all that, right? Okay, so that as far as looking for a job, everyone knows LinkedIn, Indeed, all that kind of stuff. I think LinkedIn is probably one of the more used ones these days. But then you need to tailor your resume. I still send out cover letters. I mean, till the last job that I applied for, which is this Microsoft one, I had a cover letter, of course. My mentality with cover letters is that even if it's 1% improves my chance of landing a role, I'm going to take that 1%. Because think about it, I was back, I'm still a college dropout. I didn't have any prestigious credentials on my resume. I had some help desk. So I was going to do absolutely everything I could to improve my chances. And that's kind of all I have to say about that. If you still don't want to do it, that's fine. But for me, it's like whatever is going to improve my chances, I'm going to do it. I think more importantly, though, obviously your resume needs to showcase the skills that you have. So make sure you speak to the experience that you gained in your help desk role in like actionable things, right? So I don't know, improved SLA or, speak with like metrics, numbers. That those things are very sexy to people who look at resumes, right? So focus on, like numbers and metrics that you accomplished in your role, okay? Additionally, remember I told you that you should be seeking out experiences and stories and scenarios in your help desk role that you can speak to later on when you are interviewing, right? I said that very early. And that's what your goal now is when you working to land a new job is work as well, right? There's preparation that needs to go into it. So I would sit down, spend a day, write down kind of all these types of scenarios, look up like common interview questions. I have a video on that as well. But look up these questions and kind of practice how you would answer them. Don't make stuff up, of course. Like, you want to like leverage your existing experience, but you want to be able to speak to them in a way where like it's a human talking to another human, right? If I go into an interview and you ask me, tell me a little bit about a difficult scenario you had with a customer and how you resolve that, right? And then I answer like, well, I don't know. There was this one time, like, come on, who's going to want to hire you, right? But if you spend time practicing at home, you're building your people skills in your help desk gig, and you can speak to your skill set with confidence, that improves your skills, right? It's not just about what you're capable of doing, because I don't know what you're capable of doing unless you have the opportunity to show me. But you're not going to get the opportunity to show me what you're capable of doing if you can't even talk to me about what you're capable of doing. So if I come in, I'm like, of course. Once I had a pretty difficult scenario with a person who continuously disregarded the ticketing system and would just walk in to ask for help. This, of course, was very disruptive and goes against the policies that we had in place for getting assistance. So the initial conversation with this person was like, hey, yeah, I would be happy to help you, but please do me a favor, just log a ticket. That's the best way that I can not only document your issues, but get this done as quickly as possible. However, this person continued to carry on this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You just, you see how I speak to it almost kind of like as a story instead of boring you with the details, like the nitty gritty details, especially for those initial phone calls. People just want to get a feel for who you are as a person versus your technical depth. So develop your interviewing skills. I used to record myself a lot and just rewatch. You could also practice with a friend or a family member. You can hop on our Discord, Learn to Cloud Discord, hop in the voice chat there, practice there with someone if you wanted to. But it's all about developing not just the technical skill, but the soft skills too. So that stuff matters too. That lands people jobs, 100%. I would additionally let me think, apply to as many jobs as you want, not just cloud specific ones. I mean, cloud in the title, tailor resume, networking. So this is the time for you to go to a lot of events. If you happen to be in a city that has a lot of technical events, a lot of technical meetups, you are in luck. But if you're not, leverage things like LinkedIn, be on online live streams and stuff like that. And put yourself out there. But don't be like, I once met this person. It was just so annoying that only wanted to network with me to get something out of me. Would go to every single one of my events. But it was very much like, oh, what can you do for me type thing versus like, oh, I'm trying to establish rapport. with you. The flip side, I've had people who have gone to my events, have really put in the work to establish rapport. And then whenever I could help them, like I 100% do, and I will. And a lot of these people are still in my life. So try to be someone who brings value and appreciates value. You know, approach relationships with people. I'm not talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about all types of relationships, but approach them as like, I'm here to serve. Right? And I'm not trying to say this in like a religious way or everything, but humans, we're meant to be like social beings, right? We're meant to like help each other out. So have that mentality and don't just be like, oh, what can I get out of it? Because no one likes that kind of person. Also, as far as like, I'm looking at the notes that I have written here for this video. So also I would say, as far as like finding a job that you're interested in, if you have hit like 50% of the requirements, feel comfortable to go and apply for it. But also leverage the job description of sort of like a study guide for you to outline kind of what you're missing and what you need to work on. And if you are nowhere near, then maybe, I mean, you still apply, but like don't have your hopes up and also in general, don't have your hopes up for any job. Don't like daydream about a job because you're just going to break your heart when you don't get it. Just apply, be confident, of course. If you don't get it, rejection, move on to the next one. But don't fall in love with a job before you get it. Definitely don't do that, okay? And then once you get into like, that could be like a sysadmin job or something like that after, you kind of rinse and repeat. 2 certifications, 2 projects, and then, you know, at that point, you'll probably know you want to do cloud security, cloud engineering, whatever it is, right? Find what that niche is. And then, you know, if you add everything up, you've spent 2 to 3 years, you've gained 2 to 4 certifications, 2 to 4 projects, and you're probably making some decent money now. And that's in like 2 to 3 years of time. Like you can do this. You 100% can do it. I went from making $15 an hour to making over $200,000 base salary through this process. You can do this 100%, right? I would also really stop or start limiting the external consumption of just noise, right? The earlier you can get rid of as much noise as possible, and, you know, spend more time with your loved ones, read more, consume more stuff of quality, that your time, social media, all that kind of stuff. That's going to free up space for you to like make the moves you want to make and be the person you want to be and all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, this was a bunch of like random things that I hope you find useful. And I'll link the blog post in the description. All right. Good luck.